Coming to you from the penthouse of my tower high atop the majestic Sapphire Mountain Range in the northern Rockies, and also from the Stygian depths of the foreboding forests and bogs of northern Minnesota. Welcome to World Bigfoot Radio. I'm your host, Duke, and I'm joined here by my co-host and tech wizard, Grant, to bring you another entertaining and thought-provoking chat on the subject of mystery hominids, wherever they may be found. But before we get started with tonight's show, let me tell all our listeners that if you have had a close encounter or sighting, we would love to hear your story. And also, if you have any questions, comments, or complaints about the show, or have a suggestion for a future show topic, hey, let us know. Both of us can be reached at worldbigfootradio@gmail.com, and I also have a page on Facebook called Montana Bigfoot Project, where you can also reach me, and as well as that, you can see blogs, video, and listen to podcasts not only from myself, but from many other reputable researchers from all over North America. So without further ado, it's time to go squatching. Hey folks, howdy and welcome to the second episode of the World Bigfoot Radio. We are really fortunate here today. We got what I think is going to be a great show for us. We've got one of my friends who went up to Coloma with me last year, and if you watch the videos, you'd know her as Researcher X, but if you've been more recently listening to Bigfoot Outlaw Radio, you would know her as Darlene. And I got to tell you that we are incredibly fortunate to have one of my friends here and one of the most knowledgeable people on this planet about Bigfoot. Bear is also here with us. Say hi, Bear.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing great, brother.
Good. Yeah, it's great to see you again, Darlene. I didn't know I'd run into you again this soon, but it's
I know. Great to see you again, too.
It's an honor and a privilege every time I see you.
For the folks out there to wonder why this is happening, since she did the show with Bigfoot Outlaw Radio, she's had more interesting things happening down on her ranch there in Florida. So I thought I'd bring her on to give everybody a little bit of an update. And she's just going to be here for the beginning part of the show, and then Bear's going to hang in for the whole thing and give us some more interesting conversation with him for the rest of the show. So first of all, I'd like to kick it off, and thanks for being on the show, Darlene. And would you like to give us a little bit of... You're always welcome to be on my show, dear. Anybody that'll go looking for mountain giants with me is A-OK in my book. So you want to give us an update on what's been happening down there? It sounds like you've been having lots more interesting things happening there recently.
I have, actually. The other night, my ranch manager called, and he is like, we have got a horse out. I was watching the barn, and something ran down the whole length of the barn. I saw it, I saw the reflections, or not the reflection, but it as it ran down the barn, the light of the window was blacking out as it was passing the windows. And he's like, it was going fast, it's running, we need to go find it. And it's raining and storming out. So I get in my car with my spotlight. I meet him up there with our other two guys, and we are driving around the entire farm with the cars, with spotlights looking for a loose horse. But we cannot find one. All the fences are up. Everybody is where they're supposed to be. And he says to me, well, now I'm a little freaked out. And I'm thinking, well, why? And he goes, because, that thing. And I thought, oh, I guess I never even really put two and two together because I was still looking for a horse. And when I had gone out to my car, I walked out and I thought, it smells like a skunk. And I thought the dogs were kind of agitated earlier on in the evening and kind of went over to that area of the house. And they never really had done that before. I mean, that's not a door they really go to. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, well, actually, I thought my farm manager's son might have been in the garage because he does have some motorcycle stuff up there, and they'll kind of go and bark and carry on at him once in a while. And that's what I thought might have been going on. And then I walked out and I smelled the smell, and I thought, well, thank goodness those dogs didn't go outside, because then I'd be dealing with dogs that were sprayed by something. And it wasn't until I was telling you what happened and that you said, well, what about a skunk ape? And I just went, oh, my gosh. Then all the pieces just started coming together again, because I'm here and I just want to kind of live my life and I kind of block this stuff out. So
I know, you're putting it to the back of your mind because you don't want to have that in the forefront all the time. Okay, where's the skunk
exactly. I want to have my life
doing?
back. Yes.
Yep. So I got a question for you about the windows on the barn there. How big are they and how high up are they?
Oh gosh, the windows are probably about 4 foot up on the barn, and they're about 55 inches wide.
Wow.
So
is it the same height on the
they're
windows
up
too?
a ways. Pardon?
Are they about the same height as they are width?
Yes, they're 55 tall by 55 wide.
Wow.
So
well,
they're
I'm
a big window.
I'm surprised your main man there thought it was a horse going by him, as tall as they are and as much as it was getting blocked out.
Well, he just did the speed of it. He thought it was running down the barn. So that's why he was like, oh my gosh, and it's running and we've got to go catch it. So, and I didn't even think of this until I was talking actually to Bear, and he said, well, it could have been on all fours running too. And I'm like, oh gosh, you guys, stop. The more you talk, the more I'm like, well, yeah.
Well, it isn't like we sicked them on your ranch down there. We're just trying to help you sort through this.
I know. Oh, and then on Easter Sunday, I had my guys come up for supper, and we just kind of got to talking because everybody was just kind of a little spooked after all of that, and I have one of my employees that lives in a barn, and when my activity had first started, the original person I had talked to, who's no longer on the farm, had found the tracks or the print on the racetrack, and he had said just some weird stuff had been happening. The brick barn has an apartment in it, and in the middle of the night, something would go and knock on the door. They'd open the door, and nobody would be there. And you've got to understand, this horse farm is closed up at night. We have a gate that locks. Nobody can get in. And even if they did get in, they're not going to go to the brick barn and look, for something to take. They're going to go to one of the houses or one of the other barns. And for that to happen, I thought, well, gosh, that's real odd. Well, at Easter supper, my employee that I have living in that barn now said the other night something knocked on his door and woke him up and scared him to death. And he looked out, and there was nothing there. And this was at 3 a.m.
Oh, my God.
And then behind the barn, I'd say about 100 feet, is a little wooded area. So, and it stays pretty black on that side of the barn at night.
Mm-hmm.
So we think
they got
something
pretty easy access to that barn without anybody being able to see.
Oh, nobody would see you go from the forest to the barn. Right.
Wow.
So
I'm surprised that your employees aren't getting panicked and wanting to leave at this point, to be honest.
I know. So I'm always trying to downplay it so much by not thinking about it, not doing much with it. And stuff just keeps coming out and stuff just keeps happening. And that same employee said about a year ago, he was with one of his friends just a few miles north of the farm, and it was about 8:30 at night, closer to summertime, where it was just starting to get dark. The headlights, something ran across the road in front of them, and he said they just both went, oh my gosh, and turned the car around and tried to find it again. They had their phones out to take pictures, but they couldn't find it. And he said it was tall and black and super fast.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to be getting a little bit suspicious at this point if he saw something like that a year ago, and now he's got something knocking on his door.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
Well, we got Bear here for a reason. Bear is not only got better questions probably for you than I do, but he's got a spectacular one that he wants to hit you with. You ready to go there, Bear?
Yeah, I was just listening. I wanted you and Darlene to, get across what you guys were up to. I had one of our listeners that listened to you when you was on our last show about half a month ago. They had a question in regard to those seed sacks. And, me and you discussed that, and you relocated the feed sacks to more of a center location of the barn where it's more lighted, and now you're taking inventory of them. The question was, has anybody had an opportunity to go into that wooded area and maybe find any of these discarded sacks after the fact? You know, they were just curious to know if maybe your help was probably pilfering it, or if maybe, you know, somebody might have been out there and noticed any feed sack garbage or the remains of the sacks in those woods.
Oh, we've gone out in the woods, but I have not seen any sacks. It's about 60-some acres or more, and it's very dense. And, you know, they could be out there. I don't know how fast that they're paper products, so I'm not sure how fast something like that would disintegrate. Or,
right.
There's no way to get through the whole entire wooded area just because it's pretty thick back there.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about Florida here, so this is more or less you're describing a palmetto jungle, right?
Yes,
right.
It's very much so a jungle. It does open up in some areas. We've got vines everywhere, a lot of underbrush. We've got palmettos. Oh gosh,
right.
And I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm from up north, so I'm not 100% sure what kind of, you know, underbrush or undergrowth it has. All I know is it's very thick.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, even if you had been out there looking for it, you might not have found anything anyway. You'd practically have to step on it to find it.
Yeah, especially certain times of the year. You know, you're walking through that stuff and you're going pretty slow with your snake boots on.
Right. Well, go ahead, Bear.
When we was out in Oklahoma mainly, and other locations, if we would always conduct an investigation for an individual that had gotten in contact with us, and one of their main complaints was something was dumpster diving or getting into their garbage cans. And we would always go back behind the place, you know, off the beaten path, and you would find it wasn't all the time, you had to look for it, but you could go back there. You know, mainly everybody now puts all their garbage in hefty bags or leftover Walmart bags or whatever and tie it up, and normally a booger would go when he's dumpster diving, and most of these bags, they'd just grab them, you know, and pick them up by the handle and tote them off into the woods. And that's where we'd always find the scraps or the refuse, like garbage and paper and everything, that a booger would go through the bags looking for just things to eat. And they would put everything else. A lot of people want to say these things are neat, but I've never seen neat after they've raided a garbage bag, you know.
Yeah, the same thing with bears. They're not real neat about digging through a pile of garbage.
Right. But a bear, you know, would grab it too and walk off in the woods in it. But usually when a bear grabs something, he accidentally tears it, you know, because he'll grab it with his teeth and his mouth instead of carrying it off. And
right.
With a bear, you could dang near trail him. I mean, he'll start leaving little, you know, he would tear the bag to an extent that the garbage would start falling out of it, you know, while he's lumbering along to get to wherever he's going to. It's different with a booger because a booger is real neat about taking something and then going X number of feet or yards into the woods until he's completely out of sight, and then he'd find him a nice little spot sit over there and just pilfer through the bag. And 9 times out of 10, everything that he pilfers through, he don't neatly put it back in the bag. He just leaves it right there on the ground. And yeah. And then nature will take its course, and the wind will be blowing through there and just blow these scraps of garbage all over creation in the back 40. And That's just one of the things we found through investigations on the property where a lot of people have these things come up around their houses. We have figured out though, mainly the ones that do this are the older boogers, the ones whose teeth have almost wore out. They can't eat the same things that the younger ones do for one reason or another. It's mainly their teeth though. Mm-hmm. Over age and time and not having good dental hygiene, they'll go and start stealing garbage out of people's dumpsters and their garbage bags and things like that. Yeah. And, the older ones are also the ones that love collecting roadkill. That's why a lot of people see the white ones, what they describe as white ones. 9 times out of 10, those are the older ones. A lot of people ignorantly call them albinos, but if there was that many white Bigfoots in the world, man, oh man, the scientists would have to rethink their theory on albinoism. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that there are not those type that do have a natural white color all of their life, because I've actually researched and talked to other guys that have talked about seeing white youngsters or infants, but it's very rare.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And then natural selection is going to take care of that. If you've got a population that tends to lean toward white colors or something, and they're way down in the south where you don't have much of a winter, well, hell, that's shitty camouflage. You know, they're going to stand out like a sore thumb all the time. On the other hand, if they're up in Canada where you got 7-8 months of winter, then it works great. You know, you're white. Well, that's what the color of your surroundings are most of the time. So, you know, again, that's good common sense, which is why I love talking to you, Bear, because you bring common sense to bear on all these things instead of trying to pass it off on aliens and dimensional travel and all this other malarkey that other people are trying to, you know, use as an excuse for this stuff. And the other thing I'd like to point out about what you just said, I've seen bears. You know, we used to have tons of bears on our yard. We lived way too close to a county dump. So they'd be up raiding our garbage cans all the time. And they will pick up a bag of trash or something, but they're not going to haul it off into the woods. They don't give a damn. As long as they haven't seen a human sitting there with a gun looking at them, they're just going to tear it apart right there and eat it. Okay? Right. And if they do try and carry it off into the woods, it's exactly what you said. They're going to tear it with their mouth. Little pieces are going to be dropping out. You're going to have a nice, easy trail you could follow and find where they went to. And this, again, speaks to the intelligence and the basic elusiveness of these critters, that even if they're up there at night and they think there's nobody around, they're going to get that garbage and get the hell out of there as fast as they can to where they feel like they're safe and they have time to dig through it, not be dumb like a bear and just be tearing through it right on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. And that's the difference. You know, a lot of people, you know, here we go into the conversation, and I hate taking over Darlene's time, but I'm going to just say it straight out. Most people who are interested in this subject have been born or raised in a city-like environment, and there's nothing wrong with that. There we go back to natural selection again. We didn't pick and choose who our parents were. We didn't pick and choose what environment we was given the opportunity to be brought up in. You've got your pluses, you've got your minuses for either side. People in the city make fun or make light of country people. People out in the country normally keep their mouths shut, which evidently I'm not one of them because I like talking. And I wouldn't.
Well, I'm guilty of that one too, Bear.
Yeah, well, you know, if I just keep my mouth shut about a lot of things, a lot of times, I wouldn't have to deal with ignorant people who are from the city and don't know things about horses in particular. I mean,
right.
The ones that are raising so much sand about the show that we did, even with you and Darlene, about these things, sexually molesting horses, and, you know, you have to dang near point out every certain part of your wording in talking to them to make them fully understand what you're trying to get across. For example, and I'm going to point this out since it's so fresh, while Darlene was describing about her help living in the barn, now I'm going to guarantee you that there's somebody out there whose only experience they ever had with a barn is from watching reruns of Little House on the Prairie. And the first thing they think of is, see, right there, Dukes already know where I'm going with this. And
go ahead.
Duke, tell them where I'm going with this. Come on.
No, go ahead and make your point, Bear. That's why I got you on the show.
Well, I promise you, when people are going to hear that statement that Darlene made before I stuck my 2 cents worth in here, they are going to envision that Darlene is so cruel to her hired help that she makes them sleep in the damn barn.
Oh, gosh.
Am I wrong, Duke?
Oh, my gosh.
No, a bunch of people are going to think that, and they're the same people that don't realize that some of these old barns, people did live in them. They would actually build some really nice living spaces in some of these things. It was like living in a fortress.
Well,
I would almost trade that for a lot of the places I've lived.
Well, see, there's ignorance coming to bear, because a lot of people don't realize, especially these more modern type barns, there's barns being built out there today in this time frame that I'd love to live in, because, I mean, they're beautiful. They're built just like some of the finest houses you ever want to live in, and they don't understand that Darlene is a professional horse owner, and she makes her living with horses. And we're not talking about little bitty horses that she sells individually. We're talking about a lady that travels all over this country, shows her horses off in high-dollar shows. She takes them to Vegas. She takes them to North Carolina. She takes them everywhere in large air-conditioned trailers, the whole 9 yards. They do not understand that when you're talking about a barn, especially in this situation, that the barn that Darlene mentioned is almost a high-dollar hotel or an apartment, because most barns that are built like that now have offices and living quarters in them just for this type scenario. That's the point I'm trying to make. If people,
and they are beautiful.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, actually, some of them are upstairs, downstairs. You know, most barns have a hayloft or areas that you store things upstairs. They have tack rooms where you keep your saddles, your bridles, your halters, your saddle blankets, everything that you need. Those tack rooms almost are airtight to keep little bitty varmints out of there like mice and rats, because naturally if they get into your tack room, they'll eat everything you got in there that's made out of leather.
Oh, hell yeah, leather, yum, yum, yum.
Yeah.
And you want them kind of airtight down here because you need to run the air conditioner so your tack doesn't get moldy.
That's
correct. You got that high humidity there all the time, so you
sure do.
That.
We sure do. So,
yeah, the point I was making is, if you're not born in a certain environment, don't be so quick to judge because you don't understand the situation, because you know what? Surprisingly, there may be somebody out there who knows what the hell they're talking about. And if you're going to sit there and make light of somebody for knowing what they're discussing because you are totally ignorant, all that does is point out that you're the one that's ignorant.
Indeed.
Now I'm off my
And you know, this gets back to a conversation we've had a couple times, Bear, where a lot of the people that end up knowing about these things and seeing them or having experiences with them are people that, well, no surprise there, they live out in the woods. They live out in the middle of nowhere. They're your mountain men, your hillbillies, your trappers, your trackers, these kind of people. These are the ones that usually, the hunters, they're the ones that have the experiences with these things, and it's like, well, why? Well, because they're the ones that are in the woods a lot. It doesn't have anything to do with anything other than that. That's it.
Yep. And even the trappers, the hunters, the surveyors, the ones who are out in the woods all the time, respectfully so, even the number of those guys have no clue that something like a booger is out there. And God bless their hearts, I understand that to a large degree. But what I don't understand is superior logic of people who, just take that to, well, if there was something out there like that, I'd have already known about it. Oh, really? You would have? Okay. I'm glad that you know every damn thing, And don't.
Well, some of these people that live in the some of these folks that live in the city, Bear, they'll go. I'm a big hunter. I get out in the woods and I go out hunting a couple of weeks a year, and I go to this area every year, and I've never seen anything like that. We'll do it, a couple of weeks a year. That isn't enough time to be out there and see anything.
No.
If you're even in an area where they're around, they ain't going to pay any damn attention to you until you've been there 4 or 5 days.
Well, if you get out in the woods, and a lot of people, I've run across this description. I mean, when you do this for 45 years, you hear every excuse in the world. And excuse may be the worst choice of words I could have used, but I like the word excuse. They always sit there and magnify their time out in the woods to please their self-image of their self, or to try to paint a picture to the novice type person that's listening to them and soaking everything in like a sponge as gospel coming from these type people that, wait a minute, if I just get out in the woods, say 3 or 4 times a year, let's take everything on an average basis.
Okay.
You might have 2 weeks vacation a year. Are you going to use both weeks to camp out? If you're smart, you would, but that's to get away from everything else. It's the greatest stress reliever in the world. But 9 times out of 10, the only times a person's going to actually get in the woods is going to be on weekends. When you talk weekends, maybe at the most, if you accidentally have a holiday added to it, like July the 4th or President's Day or Memorial Day or whatever, you can stretch 2 days off into 3 days off. And they'll take it, and then the next step they'll look at the weather. Look at the weather. If it's even a hint of rain, they're going to change their plans. And then they won't even go. But and I'll even go further than that. You will also find out that once they do go camping, where do they always go camping? In a controlled environment where they can pull up there in their RV or with their tents. They bring their fans. Hell, they even make air conditioners now, 110 units that'll plug up to a damn electrical outlet at a controlled environment campground and be comfortable in their tent. All right, that ain't camping. Is that camping, Duke? Tell them what camping is.
That is not camping. That's not my idea of camping.
No.
Explain what camping is, Duke. I'll even let you get in on this one.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, camping is being out there by myself in my tent. And, I do things a little bit different than some people do. We got grizzlies and mountain lions around here, so if I cook some food, I don't even cook that near the tent. I go a couple 100 yards away, cook it, eat it there, then go back to my tent, okay? That's actual camping. You're out in the woods. There's nobody else around you. There's no roads. There's no cars. There's no nothing. That's actual camping. And are you going to spend 3-4 weeks? 3-4 weeks out there by yourself in an area that does have Bigfoot in it to maybe get a glimpse of one or find some tracks. How many people are going to do that? There's your answer why few people are finding them or finding any evidence of them.
Right. All right. Who's going to devote 3 weeks of their life to doing something like that out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, what are the odds? Come on. Be honest here.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
It's not going to happen very often, and the only people that are going to do it are the ones that have a real reason to do it because, well, they've probably already seen one. There's reports from that area. They want to go sit there for a while and check it out. So, other than the actual researchers, the only people that are going to be seeing these things are ones that just have a lucky encounter. One runs across the road, or there's a juvenile digging in their garbage can, and they happen to see that, or something like that. You just These things are not stupid. They're very elusive. They live in the woods. They know how to hide their tracks. They know how to hide from us. If you think you're going to walk in there clomping around, making as much noise as a tank going through the woods, and they're not going to notice you, you are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you don't see them before they see you, or if you don't have any aforementioned knowledge about them, are you going to be looking for them?
Hell no. And even if you do see signs of them, you don't know what you're looking for, so you don't know that it is a sign of them.
Right. Then, go ahead, Grant. Look, Grant, the last show, everybody said they could barely hear you. And what it is, I know you're running the control board. You need to turn your volume up because you sound just like a feeble person way off in the wilderness that's hollering for Duke to both the flashlight.
Yeah,
we got to give him a louder megaphone from that bush that he's sitting in over there in the distance.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But you threw me right off what I was going to say. Continue on, Bear.
I didn't mean to scare you off, Paul. Throw him a line.
No, you didn't scare me. I forgot what I was going to say. So carry on.
The point that Bear is making is the folks actually want to hear your voice, Grant. I like to hear your voice too. You got some interesting things to add to the conversation, so let's crank that volume up a little bit so people can hear what you're saying.
All right.
No,
I'm working on it there.
Okay. Well, let's get back to it here with Darlene. We can't keep her tied up too long. She's got a company coming here shortly. So has there been anything else going on around there, or is that pretty much it for the updates?
Oh, that would be pretty much it for the updates. Like I said, I'm not really actively out looking or doing. I've been so busy with foaling and breeding season here that this just kind of happened upon me.
Right. Well, that's something that I think that people should keep in mind. As much as this woman knows about horses, and that's her life, and that's what she does, and she's now aware that these things are around her ranch and are occasionally going to be around there, she's still not looking for evidence of them. She's trying to get on with her life and do her job, and they keep intruding on it.
I have to distance myself from it because when this first started, I was scared to go outside at night. I was scared to walk around the house in case there was an open window where something could be peeking in at me. And I basically was shutting down. And now I'll go outside at night, but I'll go from the house to the car and drive to the barn, where before I would walk down to the barn. I would foal my mares out in paddocks, and now everything I foal in the barn because I'm not going to be sitting outside at night watching them.
Right. But see, you're also... These things have been watching you enough to realize that you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
All right? I'm going to mention this. Once these things determine that you are... All right, let's think like a booger here. Here we go. I'm going to get to the nitty-gritty. I have already associated you with belonging there. And if I accidentally all of a sudden decided I just wanted to grab you up and run off with you to Tampa or to New Orleans or to whatever, I have enough knowledge or sense to know that if you was to disappear, where I run off with you to wherever, and my family unit is still left here, that there's going to be a big stink over this deal. And the reason I'm saying this is this. Maybe in times past, it may not have happened on your particular ranch right now, because you mentioned on the Bigfoot Outlaw radio show that you've only, you and your husband bought this ranch, within the last 5 years, maybe?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was already an operating ranch, though, correct?
Yes.
All right. Maybe in times past, say a foal or a horse come up missing, or one was killed due to strange circumstances. I mean, your realtor is not going to tell you all this when he sells you the property. Say something happened that was very traumatic and caused a big disturbance. I'm just guessing here. All I'm doing is speculating. So nobody say that Bear said this happened, because I have no clue, just like Darlene has no clue. But there's a damn good chance that, say, for instance, a colt or another horse was injured by one of these things. And this is a high-dollar operation. This is what the ranch is about. And was evidently before Darlene bought the place, because the setup is the exact way it is to run an operation just like this. Say something happened to one of the horses, and, of course, then you're going to call the game warden, you're going to call the local sheriff, you're going to call all kind of people that's going to come out there and go to this carcass or go to where the break is in the fence, trying to figure out where one of these $7,000-8,000 horses went. And these boogers are sitting out there in the bushes watching this. It's always this, action and then reaction. They're smart enough to recognize that if certain things happen, all it does is bring more attention toward not necessarily them, but to look into those woods for whatever reason. It could be that they could be out there looking for a panther, because they do have Florida panthers. It could be one of the bears running through the area, because, believe it or not, there still are reports of wild bears running around in the marshes and swamps of Florida, especially in your area near Jacksonville. If these things notice that this untold attention is directed towards, in their mind, their territory, that stresses them out. And then they recognize that this is no good. We cannot mess with something that belongs. Did everything I just say make any sense?
Yes.
Makes total sense to me. It's not just a question of them personally being chased by humans, but having humans at all in their area stresses them. Because it's that much more sneakier they have to be.
Very quiet area where we're at. There's a lot of seasonal farm owners. They just kind of come down maybe a few weeks out of the year. Some of the farm owners down here don't come down at all.
Right.
So it's a very quiet area where we are at. And then you were asking about, getting back to the feed bags real quick and wanting to know, since it's happened, I've only been back in the woods once for maybe a half an hour. So, to answer your guest's question a little further, I just haven't looked since it's even happened, really. I have only been back in there once.
That's understandable. It really is, because at that point in time, you wasn't even taking inventory of your bags. So you just, if I remember correct, asked your manager, does it seem like we're going through a lot of feed here? And he answered in the affirmative, And
right.
Of course, he didn't jump in his truck and haul ass, and you ain't seen him since after you brought that to his attention.
No, I'm a little worried about the new one, though. He was really freaked out. He's like, you should have seen how fast that thing ran in front of the barn, and he's like, it ran like a horse, and I'm just like, well, it had to have been some fairly good size to A, hit the window, and B, the deer down here just aren't big enough, and even if we did have a bear going through, it wasn't going to be that fast through there, and then I think it really would have, upset the horses, and the yearlings were down at the very front of their pasture, so they were, I don't even know if they would have seen it. So
here's another funny thing. If you've got the time for it, if you got to go, just tell us.
Oh no, I'm good. My company isn't here yet. Their flight actually got delayed.
Well, here's something else that a lot of people that will be listening to the show does not think about, and this kind of goes back to just your average person who wants to discuss this with other people, but they are actually either ashamed or fearful that if they bring it up, they will be ridiculed or laughed at. Now, I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to use you as an experienced experiment, Darlene. Okay. How anxious was you to even bring this subject up with your hired help?
Oh, I didn't want to, but then I thought I almost had to, just so they would be aware, so they didn't think anything weird was happening or going on, or if they heard something strange or if something, hit their house.
All right.
I just wanted them to know, and I just kind of said it in a nonchalant way. And, by the way, I think we might have, a Bigfoot living on the farm, but don't worry, it doesn't do anything to you, it won't hurt you from what I understand, and just be aware at night and keep your eyes open.
I love to have been a fly on the wall at that Easter dinner, wouldn't you, Duke? Watching everybody sweat through this one. Did you not have any fear of bringing this subject up to them that you might, after bringing it up, probably scare off your help?
No, actually, it was just we were just sitting around having supper, talking about it, and my one guy got so excited, and we kind of have a little bit of a language barrier going on, but he was just so excited talking about what he had seen and, what had happened down there, and he did say, the knocking on the door did kind of freak him out. He goes, I grabbed my cell phone, and, just being able to tell me that he actually saw one just a little north of here, and actually that's the second time I've heard of somebody seeing one a little north of here. Another trainer in the area, when we were just kind of visiting about it, he had gone over to a truck stop early in the morning to fuel up and get a cup of coffee, and when he was driving over there, he saw one run I think he saw it on the shoulder, and it kind of went up an embankment, and he said it was early, I was tired, and he thought, what is that big black man doing over there? And he goes, then I thought, did that thing have hair? So he went and he got his coffee, came back, and he said he looked, but that's within miles of where my guy saw his too. So, that's two, pretty much credible eyewitness accounts right here by the farm. And, when you start talking to people, if they've had something happen, they kind of get excited about it, telling you their story.
Yep. Do you know why they get excited? Now, I'm going to go a little deeper. What are the odds that your help would have ever brought this up on their own instead of you coaxing it out of them?
Not probably very, this is the first time I've ever talked to this guy about it. The other guy, he's been with me for a couple of years. He knows we've talked about it. And, I'm not prejudiced, but, my two workers that, besides my farm manager, my two workers are Mexican. And, there's a huge Mexican community in the area. And when it first happened, my one guy was like, oh, yeah, but they just go through. They never stay. It's like, right. I looked at him like, you know about these things? It's so nonchalant.
But if you hadn't brought it up, now look at it from this angle. You're the one that pays these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the boss.
Mm-hmm.
If you hadn't personally brought it up first, do you think they would have ever brought it up from fear of losing their job or whatever? And I'm just being, this is average for dang near everybody. You know where I'm going with this, don't you, Duke?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to jeopardize their job by bringing up something crazy like that.
No.
All right, that is the purpose of my question in here. It's not to single you out, Darlene. It's to try to prove something to the listeners here. This is not an easy subject to bring up from fear and ridicule or fear of ridicule. You've got to pick your moments. You've got to be sort of smart about it. If you just walk up to a group of strangers or even some of your friends, well, take, for instance, anybody that's coming over to your house tonight, chances are they're coming over there for horse business. You know, that's all it is, what I'm thinking. It's none of my business what they're actually coming for. But say your friends is coming over tonight, you're not just going to look at them across the coffee table and say, hey, guys, I got a Bigfoot on my property. And what would their reaction probably be?
Oh, boy, I don't know. I don't know.
I think you can guess what it might be, though.
Well, you know, and I'm sure that there are some people in the area that think I'm the crazy Bigfoot girl and that I've lost my mind. So...
But see, that's the point of what I'm bringing all this up.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize right now if you think I'm picking on you. Actually, I'm not. I'm using you because of our friendship and because of what you know to try to show everybody that listens to this show this is not something simple or easy to just throw out there.
No.
A lot of people, when they send in questions or whatever from whatever media, especially to the outlaws, they're really nervous about even bringing it up to people like us and Duke and others who do know of these things. They'll even hesitate about mentioning it. There actually may even be people who will listen to this show who don't even associate from a decision of their own to not even bring attention towards himself within the community, because the community is not a very forgiving community. This even goes back further into what we really started all this about. I'm a country boy. Some folks are city people. What they know compared to what I know is two different things. That don't make me better than them. That don't make them better than me. It's just that I was able to use the opportunity presented to me by the fact that all I had to do was walk out my back door, even in the morning or at night, and within 30 or 40 yards, I'll be standing in the woods. People who live in the city have not got that option. And the ones who live in the city and have written books and don't even have a genuine suntan other than maybe one from a tanning booth or from a bottle of suntan mixture, they sit there and criticize people who are, due to circumstances that they could not control, are put into environments like that. And then we're the ones that are stupid. We're the ones that's ignorant. We're the ones that, why would they even bring up something like sexually molesting horses? That just shows something's wrong with them. Ha, 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 gee, gee, gee. And then you got your backslapper minions who hang around with you who, yeah, you right. Oh, yeah, you just said it right, man. What else can I do for you? Do your feet need cleaning? I'll go and get a rag and just wipe you between your toes and the whole 9 yards, just to garner attention from these type people. And I may have gone off the wall on that, but there's people out there just like this with their own little group. And they judge others due to the circumstances that those people have been through. And just because they haven't personally been through it themselves, there's no way in hell that could be true. Yep. And getting back to you talking to your help, you mentioned it 3 times now. When, even with the communication barrier that y'all was having trouble with, when your help who were eating with you for Easter lunch realized what you was talking about, you even said it yourself, they were real happy in sharing what they already have seen themselves, because that made you no more the boss and the employer talking to the employee. That made you and those people on level ground together. And that's why everybody had a big smile on their face the whole 9 yards, because I'm not crazy anymore, because my boss lady sitting here saying that she's basically seen or heard of the same darn thing. So this is a pretty damn cool boss that I work for.
Yep. For sure.
Straight.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing we could do is flip this whole situation around and look at it from the other angle of here you got a real bona fide expert on horses, and she is very well aware that these things are around there at this point and knows a little bit about them. And she's got her hired help there. They're also aware these things are around there, but they ain't talking to each other about it. They're not talking to each other about it till she brings it up. Then they want to talk about it. So how often do you think this sort of thing is actually happening? Nobody's talking about it, or they just don't realize what's going on. There's just this weird stuff happening, and I don't know. I don't know what's causing that. Where's the grain going? I don't know. What's up with the horses? Why are they acting so weird? I don't know. Yep.
Right.
Even though they have theories, or they may do have a general idea what's going on, but darn it, I am not going to tell my boss lady that there's a 8-9 foot tall critter out here that's out here harassing them, because I don't want to draw unemployment and start looking farther down the road for another job, because I guarantee you she ain't going to reference me to the next horse owner down the road. Because, you know.
And that's the truth, and that's the way those people have to look at it. It doesn't have, for them, it doesn't have anything to do with the ridicule factor. It's just a simple matter of employment. If she doesn't believe in these things and she thinks I'm crazy, well, I'm screwed, so I'm not going to bring it up.
That's correct. But you now both are on common ground. Easter was, what, 2 weeks ago? I promise.
Last weekend, wasn't it?
It may be last week, but I've been so plain busy with radio and everything else that it feels like it was last week.
It does.
Oh, Duke knows what I'm talking about. What's today, Duke? I guarantee you have to think about it.
Yeah, folks, we're really lucky to have Bear on the show tonight. He is so damn busy right now. I can't even believe that he actually agreed to come on the show tonight, but I'm sure happy that he did. And I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am.
Every time we get together, we have a blast, man. And, you know, I just don't see the good things for the foreseeable future with any of us, including Darlene. I never would have met Darlene if it hadn't been for Duke. And I'm thankful every day that he trusted me enough to send her my direction, because, see, there we go again. Darlene, you didn't know me from Adam, but you was taking Duke's word for this. How good did you feel about getting in contact with me when you first initially did? You know, if it hadn't been Duke referencing me to you, you probably never would have gotten in contact with me, right?
No.
And I'll tell you from another angle. When I found out from you, and Duke gonna remember this. I can't remember. I do. It was a phone call. Duke called me up one night. He said, Bear, there's this lady in Florida having a problem with her horses. I said, really? With her horses? What kind of lady is this? Oh, man, we're not just talking about no average farmer hillbilly type deal. We're talking about a lady who takes her horses to all these big shows, and then he got to naming all the places you go and so forth and so on. And then I got to see in dollar signs how much you was into this, and I said, well, what in the hell did you send her to me for, damn it? I don't know what I'm going to try to tell this woman.
And, well, the answer was simple. Let's see, Bear is the most knowledgeable human being on Bigfoot that I know. She needs more information than what I actually have on hand. She needs to go talk to Bear.
And so I felt not bad, but I was sitting there wondering, Lord, I'm going to tell. Number one, I was raised to be a Southern gentleman. The subject line that we are discussing, and I even, when I say it out loud, and that's why I don't say it much, sexual molestation of horses. Do you talk to an average woman about that?
No.
No.
All right.
No.
See,
And I got to give you credit for that one too, Bear, because she got back to me after she had talked to you, and I said, well, did Bear help you straighten this out a little bit? And she said, yes, he did. He explained a lot of this stuff to me. It all makes sense now. And he was very, very polite. He was much more politer than he even needed to be.
Mhm.
But see, that I mean, people don't understand even the minute little things that you have to go through to. I'm going to try my best, because if I don't, my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom, they're going to come right back from the grave and kick me smooth in the butt for just being insulting, to a lady. And then here I was talking to a lady that, in my opinion, because, see, I was raised around horses. I rodeoed a little bit back in my younger days, so I've been around the environment, not to the degree or the extent that Darlene does every day. Even though she's not in rodeo, she's into the equestrian side of the deal. And I'm sitting here talking to a lady with education, a lady with maybe some money, a lady that had every reason in the world not to be talking to a unkept, uncouth country boy redneck who sounds like he ought to be on an episode of Hee Haw. And so people don't realize the position that I'm in. And when I first met Duke, the first thing I found out about him, yes, he's from Minnesota. Yes, he lived in Florida for a while. Yes, he's a hermit out there in Montana now. Now, what's the definition of a hermit?
Hermit? Live off the woods by yourself all the time?
Yeah, a recluse. Well, yeah, you know what I mean, Duke.
Yep. Well, if you want to find out about these things and see them, that's a handy thing to be able to do, is spend a bunch of time out in the woods by yourself, because that's how you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you're increasing your chances, if for nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking 3 weekends out of a year. We're not talking about 1 week out of a year. We're talking about getting in the woods and doing it. Now, people listening to this show, please don't judge me by that totally. I understand there are people that have medical conditions. I understand there's people that have retired or are mentally handicapped that do a lot of this over the internet or through reading or TV shows. I'm not saying that if you just criticize everybody from a chair in your living room or wherever you're sitting, and you're going to criticize people for what they're out there spending all of their time, all of their money, freezing their ass off, sweating their ass off, fighting the mosquitoes, fighting the deer flies, fighting insects, fighting snakes, fighting the weather, fighting the climate, and then you're going to sit there on your butt and criticize them because somebody who wrote a book one time because they stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night is going to criticize somebody for something they don't understand or know. Shut your damn mouth.
But that Holiday Inn Express is right next to a woods, though, Bear. I mean,
well, I guarantee you they ain't got to go through the woods to get to the lobby.
And that's the truth. And I'm not going to sit here and blow my own horn or anything, but Bear is not BSing you guys. If you want to know more about these things and you think you have an area where you're pretty sure they're living, you're going to need to be out there for a while in order to start finding tracks or have them get curious, come up to your camp. I spent 170 plus days and nights in the field last year. And out of that, I got 3 track lines and 1 sighting, okay? It's 170 days and nights in the field just for that.
Yep. And how many people going to clock that much time? There's not many I know that will. I know that Kane Michaels and Eric Tippin will do it in a heartbeat. I consider those 2 guys out of Ohio 2 of the best out there currently, walking the walk, talking the talk. I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm older now. I don't camp out like I used to. Most of the stuff that I talk about, I'm not in the woods like I was 10 years ago. But when I got out of those woods 10 years ago, you're talking about 35 years of spending just about 170 days or that amount of time in the actual woods itself. That's 35 years worth of that kind of time. I'm not making excuses. You know, I'm not the spring chicken I used to be. Actually, I've got more time now to come on the radio shows, including hosting one of our own, helping others by talking on the phone, by typing and texting on the internet through other means that I didn't have the time to do 10 years ago because I was actually in the woods. Now, a person that claims they're an expert and they're on the computer all the damn time, or they're on the cell phone all the damn time, and then they still squawking that I'm the expert. I am currently the expert because I still do this. They're a damn lie. And I'll tell you why. Because if they're on the phone and if they're on the internet, they are, what are they concentrating on? Even if they do this from the woods off their cell phone, which I'll even go that far. 10 years ago, you couldn't get on the internet by access of a cell phone. So, see, that just proves right there you're telling a damn lie.
Yeah, that's a fact. And, you know, no, you're absolutely right, you know, and that's some of the people that know me and know that I have my Montana Bigfoot Project site, and I have to take care of that all the time. The only reason that I got away with having that site and still had anything happening on there is I had a bunch of other good researchers from around the country that would come and post their stuff on there when I wasn't available. And I would be out in the field 20 to 22 hours a day. I'd come back into town for about 2 hours to get on the internet, answer some questions, post a couple things, and boom, I'm back out in the field again. That was it. And barely loved for that. How hard was it to get a hold of me during the summer?
That's why I didn't get mad, and that's why you don't get mad at me when you leave a message or so, because we both know each other to the extent that we kind of understand what kind of world we live in now. I mean, you know, and I'm not looking for everybody to, you know, beat me down, pat me on the back saying, good job, man, you are dedicated. You're totally dedicated. No, that ain't what it's about. If you're going to live a life, try to have a family life, try to work a regular job, then you're going to get on the internet. You're going to do radio shows like we both now host shows of our own. Where have you got time, and who's losing out on this deal? 9 times out of 10, it's your own personal family. And you're going to wake up, and if you don't watch what you're doing, you're going to lose some of the most important things in your life, and you're going to lose it because you're overlooking what's in front of your face because you're neglecting it to do this other. Yeah. And I'm just saying,
you know, not
this.
to...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, not to blow my own horn, but getting back to the same thing again, the only reason that I could spend 170-plus days in the field during the course of a year is because I'm semi-retired. I don't have a whole lot of anything else to do. So I can get away with being out there for days or weeks at a time. Most people can't do that. And, you know, let's just be realistic about it. Even if they want to do it, it just doesn't allow. You know, people are too busy. They got schedules. They got to work. They got a family. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm just in a lucky situation where I don't have a family to take care of right now. I'm semi-retired. When the conditions allow, and I mean anything above 10 degrees, and sometimes that doesn't stop me either, I'm out in the field. Right. I do it as much as I can.
Yep.
No, I've had to call you a couple of times, Duke, to make sure you didn't freeze to death.
Hey, did y'all hear something? I didn't hear something. I heard something in the background. Damn, it must be one of them. That's one of them damn portals. If we got a portal on this show, Duke, something just showed up.
Yeah, Grant keeps getting sucked into one of those dimensional portals all the time. That's why he keeps losing his voice.
That's exactly it. You're right.
I
was
Grant.
in 1970 a couple of minutes ago. Popped back to the visit. So.
Oh, Lord, I love Grant to death. I hope he don't kill me whenever he meets me over this guy.
Well, Grant is a very nice guy, and he's incredibly tenacious about doing things. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this radio show, because he was the one that had the whole idea, went ahead and set everything up for me, and I put him in the put up or shut up situation, and he did the same thing to me. Well, it's all ready to go. I guess we're doing a show, and I'm like, okay, I guess we are.
Me and Duke kind of gravitated towards each other, but one day I looked up and my computer pinged, and it was a private message, and it was from some guy named Grant Bernetti, or whatever, however you say his last name. Hell, I can pronounce Grant. I can't pronounce his last name. And he just grabbed, here he is, out of the blue, took a chance. Now, Grant screamed to us how much fortitude, and you had to, to just even try to text me or PM me. And what were the odds that I would PM you back? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wrote down the message and erased it about 16 times before I sent it to you. So...
Just checking for spelling and punctuation errors, I'm sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, to the biggest redneck in the world, and he's worrying about
just sending it. I mean, I was nervous to send anything at first to anybody.
Yep.
But so it took. I had to muster up some courage and send you a message.
Right.
And I did. So.
Right. And ever since then, you know good and well that if I don't answer it right off the bat, I'm doing something else. You figured it out. And but I took the message from a complete stranger and I answered it. And if anybody takes the time to hear anything I have to say, and I try to tell things in a way that will allow them to try to think for themselves. I don't want to try to talk somebody into believing anything that I share with them. That's why I go the extra mile when I describe something, because I don't want, there we go back to that barn again, I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying, because I already know that there is a cultural divide between country people and city people that can accidentally open up a whole can of worms. Mm-hmm. I try to be as plain and as spoken as I can and try to be respectful in telling things so people can come to their own logical conclusions. I'm not modifying or trying to con people into thinking the way I do. I want people to come to their own logical conclusions using, and here's the key word, common friggin' sense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about you and the rest of the Bigfoot Outlaws, Bear. You guys do not have to resort to otherworldly UFOs, aliens, dimensional travel, portals, blah, blah, blah. All of this can be explained with common sense and logic, and that's what you guys bring to bear on the subject. And that's why I love having you guys around to talk to, because it's a no BS situation, and that's just the kind of guy I am too. It's no BS. I don't want to hear these wild, crazy ideas about it's an animal, okay? It may be a really smart animal, it may be as smart as we are. It's really elusive, but it spends its whole life in the woods, so of course it's good at being hidden and sneaky. But you don't need to have all of these other crazy theories and, alien involvement and other dimensions, and none of that needs to be brought into play to explain things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing that I have noticed, and respectfully, Darlene, I hope like heck you ain't sitting there saying I feel like I'm not alone on the log. I'm proud that you're here.
Yeah.
One of the things that amazes me is, let's be realistic here. All right, I'm going to ask you guys a straight-up question, and y'all just give me your honest opinion. Currently, and we're not talking Canada. Let's just talk the top 49 states in the United States, excluding Hawaii, and for obvious reasons, and that believe that there is such a thing out there as Bigfoot. Now, this is believed, not knowing. How many, if y'all give me a percentage out of 100%, how many people out of that 100% would you flat-footed stand there and tell me believe there is a possibility there's something out there just like a Bigfoot? What do you think, dude?
Well, hell, man, that's a low number, Bear. Let me hedge my answer by saying in some areas where you're out in the woods, you're going to have a lot of them that think there's such a thing, and some of them are knowers. If you're in the city, it's going to be a lot lower number. If you average it out, I'd say maybe 15%.
I wouldn't even say that high a number. I'd say about 3%.
Well, the only reason I give it that much is because we've had 9 years of being subjected to finding Bigfoot, so it's penetrating popular culture.
Right.
Monster Quest and more decent shows here lately have come on the air and brought more awareness of it in the last 10, 15 years. I'll agree with you on that one. Because I remember where I was sitting the first show of Monster Quest I ever saw, and it was in 1995 or 96. I remember. No, am I wrong? No, it was 2005, 2006. Reason I know this because it wasn't long after then I got divorced. That's why I remember this crap. Yeah, watching Monster Quest on TV, I got divorced. No.
I was going to ask if they were actually connected, but...
Of course they're connected. I've been married 4 times, and I'll sit there and tell y'all guys something. I've been doing this for 45 years, and why do you think I said with total confidence a while ago what I did about neglecting the things you should be paying attention to? Because you get
you may have made that mistake? Yeah.
What mistake? They think they want to make a mistake. Yeah, of course, I never made a mistake in my life. They're the ones. It's all their fault. Ask my lawyer. But, all right, get back to my original point. You say 15%. What do you think, Darlene, about that number?
I was going to say about 7.5% to 8%.
That's a good figure. Out of 100% of the United States population. What do you think, Grant? Yell it real loud.
I was thinking 2%. I was shooting pretty low.
Okay. Now, we're talking percentage here. Every one of you give a number. Out of that percentage that you just give me, use that basis as 100%. How many of that number actually know these things are real?
0.5.
I'd say 1% or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with both of them.
All right. This is 1%. In Duke's case of 19%. In Darlene's case of 7%. In mine, I'd say 3%, but Duke brought up a good point that I hadn't took into conjecture. Due to the simple fact I've been sitting on deer stands for 45 years thinking about this, I'm going to tell you guys something. You can solve this damn mystery by sitting on a deer stand waiting on a deer to walk under your tree because you ain't got nothing but time to think. And whatever number Grant yelled, I didn't catch it totally, but I knew it was a small number. Now, 1% of that number, that don't even make it a percentage point out of the overall 100%. That makes it a point something like a 0.0005% know these things are real.
Mhm.
Yep.
Now, I'm going all this direction. I got a point to this. I'm going all this direction to show something. You find, and it's becoming more prevalent every day. You look up, and so has written a book about Bigfoot. This one has written a book about Bigfoot. Man, they're going to get rich off this. I mean, think of all the people that's going to buy this book that I'm going to write about a creature that I don't even know is out there because I've never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get rich on this. Is anybody that ever writes a book on this going to get rich? Unless you're Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And
well, it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I'm only mentioning Dr. Meldrum because he is the most prolific out. Everybody sees him on every show of Monster Quest, every time the word Bigfoot's brought up, every Discovery Channel special. Who do they call first and foremost to be on that show? Who?
Yeah, Dr. Meldrum, he's their go-to guy.
Mhm.
Meldrum even wrote a book on this, and it never made the bestseller list. Wonder why? But within the Bigfoot community, it was the go-to book to have. Before Meldrum, there was a guy named Dr. Grover Krantz. Old Grover. You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he was one of the first ones that jumped on the bandwagon from the academic community and went, hey, there's something here. We need to take a look at it.
Well, see, I'm going from now backwards. I mentioned Meldrum's book. Before Meldrum, the last book that would amount to a hill of beans was Dr. Grover Krantz. Then you got Renee Dalhendron, Peter Byrne, and what was his name? Tom Green? What's John Green? John Green wrote There Are Apes Among Us. In my opinion, the best book ever written about Bigfoot. Have y'all ever read it?
Well, that's high praise. No, I guess I have to read it now.
Mhm.
It was put
I have
out,
not read that one.
I don't know the year it was put out, but I think it was either the late 60s or the early 70s. It's called There Are Apes Among Us. It's a very obscure book. It's been in 3 or 4 different printings because it's so popular. And if any Bigfoot aficionado or whatever the word is, there's a bearism. I know what the word is, but I may not be saying it right. If you have if you have a Bigfoot collection, that should be in it. And you can go to eBay or whatever and put in a request for it, and you might see one for sale, but I promise you it ain't going to be cheap, but it's well worth every nickel you spend on it. A lot of people don't realize that John Green, Peter Byrne, Renee Dalhendron, and Grover Krantz were considered the big 4 of the Bigfoot community after Roger Patterson and Bob Gimline made that famous horse ride in 1967.
Yep.
And they was all hired by a billionaire at the time named Tom Slick. He was an oil tycoon. He died under mysterious He died from mysterious circumstances.
You know where he died?
No, sir, but go ahead. I'm sure you do.
His plane mysteriously blew up or crashed right over Montana, where I'm living.
There you go. Under very mysterious circumstances.
And it was, yeah.
All right. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because the people that are going to be listening to the show probably have just started in the Bigfoot community, wants to soak everything up they can find about Bigfoot. They'll see this show, and hopefully they'll listen to the show. Then when they hear my voice on the show, they'll say, well, there's that ignorant redneck again running his mouth. But my point of the whole deal is, do your history look back and see who the pioneers were. That's why initially Bigfoot and Sasquatch was mainly considered as being only a creature located in the Pacific Northwest. Back in the late 60s and 70s, if somebody from nowhere in Mississippi would have started screaming from the top of their lungs that they're boogers down here, they wouldn't have paid me any attention and even thought of the fact that, well, he can't be talking about the same thing that they're seeing out there in the Pacific Northwest, because there's no way in hell that this thing could live down there too. He lives on the eastern side of the Mississippi River. I mean, everybody already knows that that place is so overpopulated with people that you can't go out in the backyard and take a leak off your back porch because your next door neighbor is sick. You know, I mean, that's the assumption.
And how is the booger going to get way over there from the Pacific Northwest when everyone knows that great apes are lousy swimmers?
Well, yeah. And now I'm going to go a little bit farther. Then other people come onto the scene. A guy named Paul Freeman. This is very important. When Paul passed away, it was a few years ago, Paul's life was hell, and I'll tell you why. He got ate up big by the Bigfoot bug. He neglected his family. He missed out on the years that his children grew up, went to high school, went to college, went through elementary school, the whole 9 yards, as a direct result of what Gimline and Patterson filmed. And then the major four guys, they got together with Tom Slick. I mean, it was a big deal back in the day. Everybody wanted to prove that this thing was real. Well, Mr. Freeman got out there and started casting tracks, and he started taking videos, so forth, so on. But my point is, when he ended up passing away, his family, even at the graveside, issued a statement direct to the media saying that everything their dad did was a hoax. And what they was basing this on was they found in some of Mr. Freeman's effects after he passed away some shoes with wooden Bigfoot tracks stuck on the bottom of it. So they naturally just told everybody that Paul Freeman lied about every track he ever found. He lied about all these tracks that he was seeing and taking pictures of, because he was actually making the tracks himself. And I got to scratching my head. I said, you know, Paul Freeman had to get around pretty damn good to come all the way down here to Mississippi and Alabama and Texas and Oklahoma and Florida and, well, every state that's reportedly had or found a Bigfoot track. And Mr. Freeman clocked a many a miles walking around in those fake-ass Bigfoot feet. And here's what gets me. The ghost of Mr. Freeman is evidently still walking around, because we're still finding these tracks after he's done been passed away for all these darn years.
Yeah. Mm. No, they're tracks that he made while he's still alive. We're just finding them now.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what. You know, I always get a bang out of the ones that talk about how Bigfoot can move through portals and stuff like that. And these are some of the same people that seem to think that there's only one Bigfoot, and he can just go through a portal and disappear out of the Pacific Northwest and appear right on Bear's back porch and give him a hard time. Then he can go through another portal and appear up in Minnesota and mess with one of my friends. You know, the whole thing is just so nonsensical.
Yeah, to be an easy way to cross a river, that's for damn sure. I mean, you know, I don't even have to get my feet wet. Well, why in the heck would you even walk through a mud hole or snow or anything like that if you could travel through a portal? I mean... Yeah,
and that's another thing. If Bigfoot are so damn advanced and they got all these magical powers, how do we ever find a track, folks? Think about it. If they're really that amazing and mystical, how do they ever leave a track?
And these are some nasty rascals, too, because you know what? They defecate everywhere. Why can't they go into the damn portal and use the men's room?
First damn evidence I found of Bigfoot when I moved here to Montana. I was out camping up on the Blue Mountain area, and there was a little river there. It only flows during the spring. It's just a runoff river. And there was like a little island in the middle of it, and I was wading across and got out on the island, and there was a big old huge pile of it. And it was all, it kind of looked like the human version, except it was about as thick around as a soup can, and there was a lot of it. And I just went, well, Bigfoot's around here.
Yeah, and then you go to scratch it through that. Look, I'll tell y'all funny real quick. I've only been to one Bigfoot conference in my life, and the only reason I went to the thing because I was asked to speak at it, and it was in Jefferson, Texas. At the time, it was the TBRC, which is Texas Bigfoot. Right now, they're called something else. I mean, they've been incorporated. Actually, they're a damn good group. They have turned into one of the best groups out there. They don't do it for publicity. Everything they do, they take the side. They're the most scientific approach I've seen. The BFRO at one time tried that route, and I was behind it to a large degree. But they didn't stick to the principle like this Texas group still does to this day. I can't remember for the life of me what they're currently called. Something conservatory, I know that much. It's a big fancy name now. And I'm not putting them down. But back,
is that the Woodend Conservatory?
Yeah, something like that. Woodman or something. I don't know. But anywho, back in the day, it was 2002, and they put on this conference in Jefferson, Texas. And I went to it. I was asked by at that time, it was the director of the TBRC, which was Craig Woolheater, to appear down there and do a presentation. Well, while I was there, I was part of a panel that was asked questions by the people in the audience. And one of the questions come from a guy from New York City. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking now all the time I'm saying it, New York City, talking about that darn hot sauce that you put on your potato chips, But
it's from New York City. We're going to shut you down.
Yeah. This cat says, have you ever found, I can't talk like him, have you ever found any fecal matter out there? And I said, yes, sir, I sure have. He said, have you ever had it analyzed? I stood there for a second and I thought about it. I was thinking at the time, this stupid son of a gun. Why would I want to go out there and pick up a pile of crap, put it in a Ziploc bag, take it home, put it in the deep freeze next to the catfish and the deer venison and all my vegetables and all. Forget that it's there, not tell my wife about it at all. And then she pulls it out and calls it out to fix for supper. All this was running through my mind at the time. And I said,
yeah, road apple stew, probably not too tasty.
No.
No, it's not tasty at all. I can imagine it's not tasty at all. I promise you. Actually, it turns my stomach to even think about handling it, let alone picking it up. But I looked at this guy. I said, well, why would I do that? He said, well, you could recover it and send it to a laboratory and have it analyzed. And I sat there and thought about that for a minute, too. I said, I tell you what, before I leave here, the next pile that I run into, I want your address. Because what I'm going to do, I'll do it just for you. I will go get me a camp shovel. I'll even go and to Fred's or Walmart and buy me some of those darn medical gloves so I won't contaminate it. And I will gently and carefully pick this stuff up, this crap up, and it's literally crap, and put it in a Ziploc bag, and I will send it to you freight collect overnight express, because I promise you if UPS or FedEx started smelling something in the back of their panel truck, they ain't going to like me too damn much. And this man got mad at me. Everybody in the whole conference room just busted out laughing. And my intention was not to embarrass him, but it was the nature of the question. And I told him from the get-go that, look, I ain't playing cowboys and Indians, and like a lot of people out there are playing college professor scientists, or they're getting paid by MIT or all these large dollar corporations. I don't have a PhD behind my name. I'm just doing this as a hobby. But I know Bigfoot crap when I see Bigfoot crap, and if you step in Bigfoot crap, it's going to still smell like crap, and all you got is nothing but a damn bag full of crap to begin with. So, it's a crappy-ass subject, and I'd rather change this crappy-ass subject into something I can sink my teeth into, and I damn sure don't want to sink my teeth into a pile of crap. And
You know, actually, this gives me a good departure point right here for something else that I'd like to bring up, and that's attitude about squatching. You know, earlier on, decades ago, when I was just starting to get interested in finding out more about this, it always kind of surprised me that some of the people that were really senior, and especially the ones that seemed to know more about what they were talking about, were not that concerned with trying to prove it was real. They were more concerned with finding out about it. And I've noticed that the longer I went in this, the more time I spent out in the field, the more I knew about them, the less I gave a damn if anybody else believes that they're real or not. I'm out there to satisfy my own curiosity, to find out as much as I can about these things, and hopefully pass it along to people that actually want to listen and have a civilized discussion about this. I'm not here to convince anybody that Bigfoot is real. You go ahead and believe whatever the hell you want. I know they're real. Bear knows they're real. Grant knows they're real. Darlene knows they're real. We're talking about a real animal, and we're trying to get as much information on it as we can. We're not here to convince anybody that they exist. If you don't want to believe in them, that's fine. Do whatever you want, man. We know they're real. We're here to talk about a real animal.
Yep, and don't cloud the issue because you're too damn lazy to go out there and put the time in and then come up with cheap excuses towards why you can't find one. And that's basically, in my personal opinion, is where orbs and interdimensional travel and portals and all that come from, or even the simple thing considered as cloaking. Let's talk about cloaking for a minute. What in the hell are they talking about, in your opinion?
You know, every time I hear that word, I kind of wonder myself, you know, and I used to watch Star Trek, so I figured they were kind of talking about like a Romulan cloaking device, and the Bigfoot could just make themselves invisible at will. And, you know, they make themselves invisible at will by waiting until you look away for a split second, and then they duck down behind a bush or behind a tree, and you don't see them anymore, and you go, oh, my God, they're cloaked, they went invisible. Right?
Or either, you remember when we used to watch those good cartoons that the politically correct crowd made us get rid of? I'm talking about Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote and Bugs Bunny and all, you know, the good cartoons, you know, the good ones. And all of a sudden, their Roadrunner is standing there, and he goes, beep, beep, and then he's gone. Well, when he's gone, all you see is dust. Is that what
did he just cloak?
Yeah, he just cloaked, man. I'm telling you. We're going to have a bunch of folks either laughing their ass off at this show or they done already threw the damn cell phone and computer across the living room. But frankly, my dear, as Clark Gable said in Gone with the Wind, I don't give a damn.
Maybe that's where those big piles of crap come from, cloaking.
Well, that's probably what the crap is anyway. They just cleaned out their other dimension and left all the crap here in the continental United States. You know, we're their fluid systems. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that one, Grant. Yeah. But
now I wouldn't doubt if the Bigfoots in the other parts of the world are dimensionally traveling here to the U.S. just to dump their crap here.
That's possible too. Now, I mean, you know, I'm not going to throw no possibility out there, but Lord have mercy. But
seriously, I mean, we're just kidding here, guys. We're just joking around a little bit. Seriously, Bigfoot's a real animal. It's not magical. It doesn't have magical powers. If it does something that you have trouble explaining, it's because you haven't figured out how they did it yet. You know, I was following Bigfoot tracks. So here's an example. Somebody say, I was following Bigfoot tracks. They went partway across a clearing, and they just dead-ended. He must have been beamed up or something.
That's it.
The tracks just ended.
Yep. Beam me up, Scotty.
And you know what the answer to that one is, Bear. The damn thing backtracked, climbed up a tree, and was sitting there watching you when you walked underneath it.
Well, it's not even so simple as just backtracked and found an overhanging limb. it backtracked, found a more solid ground, like, say, rocks, or they was accidentally a ledge right there above it, and,
Or a fallen tree that they can walk all the way down the trunk.
There you go. Yeah, come on now. I mean, you're being ridiculous now here, Duke. They can't possibly do things like that. They got to beat him up somewhere, I'm telling you. Who better or what better knows its own environment than a booger? Mm-hmm. What is so scared, so feared, so stressed out over trying to prevent man or humans from even knowing it's there, that it would even go to all these measures? But there we go again. No, they can't, and they won't go that far to reveal or to conceal their tracks. There's no way. You're just full of it, man. There's no way, because I tracked this thing for, you just posted something. How many tracks was it in Minnesota? 7,000, was it?
Oh, God, they didn't actually count them. It was over 3 miles long. It was in the middle of the winter, 17-inch footprints. These guys were wading through snow up to their waist trying to follow this track line, and you could see where the thing had clearly stepped over the snow, hadn't left any kind of a trail other than its footprints. And these guys are plowing through snow up their waist trying to get to this trail, going, what in the hell left this thing, And every time they were following that trail, that it got to a log, it would walk down that log. Even if the log was under the snow, they would still walk down that log, force a habit.
All right, what was you screaming, Grant? I hear you just vaguely, but I'm listening.
No, I was just going to comment on how they were walking along the logs that were falling down. They would walk. I was just going to comment on that, but Duke already covered it.
See there, we got to fix your mic. Duke is stealing all of your glory.
I know. I need a mic. I know.
We got to get more Grant on this show.
Yes, we do. We got to start a campaign, even though this is, I think, your second episode, correct? So we're going to start the Give Grant More Time campaign. We got to have this. There's no way around it. So I want to officially apologize for the first episode where I spent way too damn much time talking and not enough letting Grant answer the questions. I am very sorry about that, folks, and I'll do better in the future. It's a passion, man. If you know these things are real out there, and you studied these things for X number of years, and you start talking about this subject, and then people look at you and say, how in the hell can you keep on and on and on and on and on? And I'm sitting there, how late is it? How long have I been running my mouth? They said, oh, shoot, you've been up there running your mouth non-consistently for 4 hours. I got a funny story about that, too. What's this? I don't want to say this word wrong because I can really get into the R-rated side of it. But it's called MUNFO, or it's spelled M-U-F-O-N. Y'all pronounce it the way it's actually spelled. I could call it a mofo.
MUFON.
There we go. I could get in trouble by calling it a mofo, which is abbreviated for something else.
Yeah, no, MUFON doesn't got anything to do with mofo and vice versa.
Okay. But
folks out there that don't know, MUFON is the big UFO central organization that collects all of the reports on UFO sightings. That's what MUFON does.
Right.
Mutual UFO.
Well, there was a group when me and Kumbo, this is when Kumbo lived in Mississippi. There was a group out of Memphis, Tennessee. And somehow or another they got wind of the fact that me and Kumbo did Bigfoot investigations and so forth and so on. And I don't know how they found me or whatever, but they sent me an email and they asked, would me and Kumbo consider coming to their house, and they give the location in Memphis, Tennessee, and do a speech on Bigfoot. And I scratched my head, and I called Kumbo, and I said, Kumbo, these people calling themselves mofos want us to come talk to them. Kumbo said, well, what in the hell is a mofo? I said, Kumbo thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy too because I didn't know how to pronounce damn word, you know. And he said, "Bear, what are you trying to say here?" I said, "Well, I call it mofos, but maybe I'm saying it wrong. It's spelled M-U-F-O-N. Oh, I know who them are. That's them UFO kooks. You know, I hate saying that, but kind of what Kumbo said, but I'm being nice. He said, well, why is this? I said, they want us to come to Memphis, Tennessee and do a presentation to their private group that meets once a month. I said, are you up for it? He said, hell yeah, are they feeding us? I said, yeah, I think it said somewhere on there they was going to feed us. He said, I'm all for it as long as we don't get them damn finger sandwiches and all, but I ain't going to eat none of them funny-looking fish eggs either. You know what I mean? But, anywho, I got a hold of Vicky and our good friend Sam Armstrong. Sam lived in Memphis. And I called Sam. I said, well, give me this address, Sam. Where's this at? You kind of know Memphis better than I do. And he looked at the address. He said, Bear, you sure you want to go to this? And, you know, all my warning flags went off about that time. I said, uh-oh, what I done stepped in now? Some Bigfoot decaf, or is it, you know, but anyhow, he said, Bear, this is in the more affluent areas of Memphis. I mean, when we drive into the driveway, don't be surprised if a doorman comes out there and opens up your door and parks your car. I said, if the son of a bitch gets in my damn truck and runs off with it, I'm going to whoop his ass. You know, I mean, anyhow, we showed up at this thing. There is about 60 people in this huge-ass mansion. And they had, sorry about this, Kumbo, I'm still apologizing for it. They had finger sandwiches, and I swear to God, they had them little bitty fish eggs. And I looked over there at Kumbo, and I just silently mouthed, I'm sorry, and he silently mouthed something else, but I ain't going to tell you what it was. So it comes time to do our presentation, and we start at 7 o'clock. Here we go. It was me and Kumbo swapping off with each other. Now, anybody that knows us, anybody that's been on our radio show knows when we get to passionately start talking about this subject, we can go all time too. Somebody bumped me on the shoulder. I got to noticing every now and again somebody would leave the room and then they come back in. What I didn't realize was that everybody had to go to the damn bathroom because we was talking forever. We were scheduled to only do maybe a 2-hour presentation with maybe a 15-minute break in between. I look up and I say, does anybody need a break? And somebody just looks at me and said, well, Bear, a lot of us have to go to work tomorrow morning. It's 12:30. I said, what? And they said, yeah. I said, but nobody left. And somebody said, well, that's because we are listening to everything you guys are saying and we don't want to miss nothing. And that's when I started noticing that a lot of these old blue-haired old ladies, and then the few that was sitting over there with tinfoil on their head, because I promise you, there was folks there with tinfoil on their head. I don't know what that was about until I seen that movie Signs with Mel Gibson one time, and then I figured it out. But anywho, these little poor old blue-haired old ladies were crossing their legs like my dog does when I oversleep and I don't let them outside. And I looked at Kumbo and I said, well, I guess we missed the intermission, so we better just go on and wrap it up. And I think we got out of there by about 2:30 that morning. And nobody left.
So you gave more than they bargained for, that's for sure.
Well, be honest with you, we hadn't even scratched the surface then. And we knew it, you know, but when you start talking about Bigfoot, you can tear off into so many different directions because you say something to talk about, and before you know it, while you're in the heat of the battle, something else that you mentioned comes out that, you know, your subconscious is saying, you know, that's a damn good point. I need to speak of that. How many conversations have we ever actually started on the telephone, Duke, between me and you, that we ever actually finished the subject?
Never. And we usually go 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
We have a great time in the meantime, but no, I don't think we ever really finished the subject.
No. But getting back to what we was originally stating, all that, what we've said up until this point, I'm just going to say this. How much money are you making doing this, Duke?
Not one damn penny. I've never made a penny, and, not sure I ever will, and I don't care.
How many other people out there are selling T-shirts and books and conferences? I mean, are these conferences free, or is it people who write books, who sign their books? And this brings me back to the Jefferson conference that I went to. Everybody that appeared there, and there were some prominent names. One of them was Lauren Coleman. One of them was Bender Nagel. 2 or 3 other folks from some other places. M.K. Davis was there. But every one of them that showed up there other than M.K. at that time, that's when he was doing the evaluation of the Patterson film. I mean, probably one of the first evaluations he ever did, because this is back in 2002. All they would speak about was basically a synopsis of what's in their book. They never would field questions. They never would just stop long enough and say, okay, anything any of you guys want to ask me, here I am. Here's your opportunity. Hit me with it. Nobody ever volunteered that. And you know good and well, because I'm sitting in the audience listening to these people, and I've got 4,999,000 questions and running around in my mind that I want to ask a quote-unquote expert, because I've never been in the presence of an expert before. And if they're considered an expert, they're supposed to know these answers. That's the way I feel about it. What do you think, Duke?
I totally agree with you. There's, unfortunately, the skeptic crowd is always going to hammer on this one. If you got somebody that's going around doing presentations and selling books and they're getting paid for it, well, there's their end game. That's why they're coming up with all this crazy stuff, and they're making up the stuff in the books and all this stuff because they're getting paid for it. And that really irks the hell out of me.
If they run out of something to say or give an opinion on, what's the easy way to cheat? Is to start making things up, right?
Yeah. Well, or like you were saying, during the presentation, they just present whatever it is they want to talk about, and they don't do a Q&A. Because, somebody might ask them a question they can't answer.
Well, it's not only that. Say they're at the...
Hey, guys,
go ahead.
We're going to have to have to wrap her up here pretty soon.
What? Is it 2:30?
All that bathroom talk.
Well, I want to hammer on this one just a little bit more here. I was at the first ever Big Sky Bigfoot conference back the end of October, and I was the keynote speaker. And there was 3 other speakers there. 2 of them had books, and one of them was selling autographed pictures, And they all got paid a fee to be there, except for me. Wouldn't accept it. Wasn't selling any autographed pictures. And, I'm not in it to make money. And I love the fact that drives skeptics up the frickin' wall, because they can't figure out what my end game is. Why is he doing this? He's not getting paid for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's why I love you Bigfoot Outlaws, because you guys are in the same boat. You're out there doing all of this stuff for free. You're giving this information away for free because you care. You want people to know what the truth is. If they're interested and willing to listen to you, you're going to give them the straight facts, and you're not going to charge them for it. That's why you guys are heroes in my book.
Let me ask you another question, and then we'll drop it. Even though I'll say that, we'll probably go somewhere else, and Grant will get mad at us, and we'll hear a little feeble voice cussing us in the background. But who are the ones raising more hell about people like the Bigfoot Outlaws, Duke? Are they the ones that write a book?
You know, it's not any of the guys that are out there doing this for free. It's the ones that are writing books and want everybody to buy their book and trust if what they're saying is true. No, Bear and these other guys can't know what they're talking about because they're not selling books, you know. Wrong.
I'm tending to think the same thing. So don't that mean that somebody's got an agenda other than what we're doing for free? I mean, why are we sticking our necks, our names, our reputations, our faces out there just to be ridiculed by people who wrote books? I mean, if the people who wrote the books would even speak of half the things that we tell freely that we've learned through 45 years of research or investigations, how come since they've been doing it for 45 years, they don't write of this in their books? But then again, maybe we're taking an audience or a crowd away from that person who will normally profit from it. Am I right?
I think that's exactly what's going on, Bear, to be honest with you.
Well, if you...
They don't want somebody stealing away their customers and giving them information for free that they could be making money on.
Right.
And that's assuming they have good information.
Yeah, and if you shut up the source that's giving it away for free, don't that leave it wide open and then they have nothing to worry about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and the other thing is if there's such great expert researchers, well, you would think that they would know things that we don't know because they're experts and they could put them in their books. And how could we steal their thunder then?
You know, I still scratch my head over that. But I'd like to end the show, since Grant's going to kill us if we don't, on that thought. Why? Why are the ones that are screaming that we don't know what the hell we're talking about, that we're sharing freely, that we're sticking our necks on the line to share with about certain things, and yet they can't, if they know what they claim they know and worth the salt of the world for being the all-knowing expert, even putting expert in their name title, the only expert out there, and they don't know something, well, just say, for instance, about braiding horses' manes and tails, and that we're full of crap, shows me they ain't the expert they think they are. Because how come this expert ain't thought of this? Or I'll even go you one better than that. If they even go out and talk to people who've actually seen Bigfoot and investigate these people, you're going to tell me they haven't run across 3 or 4 people out there who sucked up their pride and said, you know, these things out there molesting my horses and cows. And you're going to tell me that he calls himself an investigator, or she calls herself an investigator or researcher, and you don't take that and run with it? Because, I mean, this is not something that's just talked about every day concerning Bigfoot. Actually, you know, It was brought up. It's been brought up historically for a long time. It's a part of the Bigfoot research that a lot of people don't talk about. But I'm thinking the reason it's not talked about is because a lot of them don't know what the hell to do with the subject, because they haven't taken the time to go into the field and investigate this the way it should be.
Yep.
I mean, if we're going to sit there and just use Harry from Harry and the Hendersons as a basis for what a real Bigfoot is, why in the hell are we doing radio shows, having websites, having Monster Quest, the whole 9 yards, when all we have to do is show Harry and the Hendersons once a month?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the other thing is, Bear, I'd like to say this again. I said it on your show. I'm going to say it again. Anybody, and I don't care who it is, anybody that claims that they are an expert on Bigfoot is, by virtue of the very fact that they just made that statement, completely full of crap.
Amen. And I tend to think that too. I like to think, and I know who these people are that's running their mouths. You do too. But at one time or another, I never had no animosity toward this person or nothing, you know. This person can continue doing what they're doing. They're going to anyway. How am I going to stop them? But I've never stopped long enough to point out, you're full of crap. Now, why have they stopped long enough? Just because they're ignorant about this aspect, and they're pointing their finger back at me saying, you're full of crap. It just dumbfounded me, man.
It's an unpalatable subject, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it. It's a real animal. There's going to be some things about it that are going to not be pleasant to talk about, and that's the way it is with every animal. And if you're going to avoid talking about parts of things about it, you're not going to give people a complete picture of what these things are like and what they do. It's just that simple.
Let's look at it from another perspective. See, we're working on 2:30 now, Grant. Don't say a word. The ones who add portals, interdimensional travel, mind speak, clothing, all of this, they add all that. And yes, there's people out there like me and Duke who are going to point these things out and say, wait a minute. But then you say something off kilter that is very possible, very probable, and has been seen happening by witnesses, and then you going to throw that in the garbage can and allow people to get away with cloaking and orbs and interdimensional travel and mind speak and all of that. That speaks a lot to me about, wait a minute, hang on, you know, what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander. You know, and it does, you know, all it does is cloud the whole issue. That's like Susie. She posted something today. I don't know how many will be listening to this who don't get on the internet, but she posted it on Duke's board and Bigfoot Outlaw Hideout. Duke's board is Montana Bigfoot Project. Join either one of them if you can, because they're free to join. All you got to do is send your name in, look them up on the internet. All you got to do is go to your search engine, type it in, and they'll pop up. But Susie wrote an article today about why this is not being taken seriously, and I highly recommend that article that everybody who wants to believe it's real or who knows that it is real to read it, because it nailed it right on the head. Did it not, Duke?
You're absolutely right, and amen to that, Bear. Great point to bring up, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for her, and she was absolutely hit the nail right on the head with that one.
Well, I'm going to shut up now, because if I start anything else, Duke, Grant's going to be screaming in the distance again. I love Grant to death, and I don't want him screaming at me. I don't know if he's mad or he's just trying to get his point across.
Yeah, we better get going before he gets mad, or we won't be able to do this anymore. He'll get so pissed off at us, we'll never be able to do another show. So,
it's great talking to you again, Darlene. My pleasure.
Oh, it was great talking to you guys, too.
Well, you know where I'm at. You know my phone number. You've got my email address and everything. PM me, whatever. Duke, pleasure as always, brother. You already know how I feel about you. And Grant,
I feel the same way about you, brother.
Yeah, Grant, get your microphone.
I'm on it.
He already said that last week, Bear. He really is on it. He knows that that's an issue, and he's on it. So,
just tell the truth.
Well, I'd like to thank Darlene for being on here too. Just for a quick second, thanks a lot for being on the show, Darlene. I know we kept you here a lot longer than we expected to be on, and you were just kind of sitting in the background listening to us gab, and I hope it wasn't too horribly boring for you.
No, I enjoy it.
Thanks a lot for coming on the show and updating us, and I hope that you'll continue to do that in the future. If anything happens down there, let me or Bear know what's going on, and if there's any way that we can help you with it, we sure will. And Bear, always love talking to you, brother. You are so much fun to have around, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am that you actually came on my crappy little show here for episode number 2. Really appreciate it, brother. Anytime you need me on your show or you need help with anything, you just give me a call. You know that's the way it works.
Yes, sir, and I'm honored to be on it. Guys, you know, one more thing. And look at Grant. Look at Barry rolling his eyes right now. Everybody talks about networking. You know, get together and networking. Look at what Montana Bigfoot Project and Bigfoot Outlaw Radio is doing, and I'm not even including another website called Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project. It's run by
Excellent site.
Mary Fabian.
Mary Fabian. She is great.
We ain't just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. That is 3 different websites that are working together in relation to each other, and nobody has mentioned the word networking. We've discussed this before, Duke. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
Talking about networking is one thing, but actually doing it is something different, and that's what we're doing. We're doing the networking.
Yep. Pennsylvania, Montana, and the Deep South. Now we just got to find somebody out there in Zubyland. That's in California. And we
need a correspondent up in Alaska too.
well, I respectfully, I forgot somebody. Brenda Harris out there in the Four Corners area. She has done a super job. I'm so proud to know Brenda. You need to try to get her on the show, the whole 9 yards. She is a go-getter. And yeah. But I'm gonna shut up.
Totally
now.
agree.
I've said that 3 times, so I'm shutting up this time.
Grant, you want to finish us out tonight, since you're the guy that never gets to say anything?
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to. I guess here. I just wanted to thank both you guys for coming on. And if anybody has any encounters that they want to send to me and Duke, just send it to our email. It's worldbigfootradio@gmail.com. And that's all I have. You guys have a good night.
God bless you, everybody. Thanks for being with us, and thanks to listeners out there for putting up with our occasional silliness. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed doing it.